Well, hello everyone and welcome to the 2022 edition of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. We are here at surprisingly sunny Silverstone, certainly not like that in the real world right now. My name is Connery Maddock and I'm joined by the ever wonderful Paul Smith for this entire season. I'm super hyped to get started here. You should be too, watching on both the Porsche Twitch and of course the RaceSpot YouTube as well. We are all set for the first round of the season. 2 races today here as well, Paul. An action-packed day.
It's going to be tremendous, isn't it? It's a fantastic championship as this. We had so much fun last season out, so yeah, great to see our champion and the championship protagonists back once again. And some new faces in this series as well, which should really spice things up out there.
Yeah, I was flicking through the entry list just before this race. I'm just thinking how much more potent the field is this year compared to last year. Of course, we still have the likes of Sebastian Job. He's coming back to try and defend his 2021 title. But there are a few more challengers that we'll talk about a little bit later on that might be able to make their mark on this championship. Here's the here's the format for today. Open qualifying is underway at the moment, and that will be 17 minutes. And of course, works a little bit differently here in this heat racing session. That will be 17 minutes as a hard limit. They won't be able to complete their laps once time expires. Then we'll be heading into race number 1 of 25 minutes. Then we'll get a little bit of a break in between the 2 races here today. Our second race will also be 25 minutes. However, there is a reverse grid. The top 6 in the results of race number 1 will be reversed to set the grid for race number 2. You can see the point structure there as well. 25 points to the race winner, 20 points to second place, 17 points to third, and you can see it further down. Bonus points are in effect as well. 1 bonus point for pole position and 1 bonus point for the fastest lap in each race. Here's the calendar then. We start things off here on the 20th of February. Race number 1 and 2 at Silverstone GP. Not the first time we're going to be heading to Silverstone this season. We've got Brands Hatch Indy for the second round. Round 3 is Snetterton. Round 4 is Alton Park. Round number 5, new track here on iRacing, Knock Hill. That will be a very exciting predicament indeed. Then we head back to Silverstone for the Silverstone National Circuit towards the end of the season. Then we head to Donington Park for the penultimate round. And then we head to Brands Hatch, this time the GP layout, for our finale for race 15 and 16. But here we are, here today. We're here at the home of British motorsport here, Paul.
Absolutely, and a circuit that straddles 2 counties here. It's that big is this venue. A former World War II bomber airfield, so that's where the Wellington Straight gets its name from. 3.19 miles long. It's a high-speed, fast circuit with a bit of a tight, twisty section in that opening loop, you know, through the loop and out onto that Wellington Straight. So there are overtaking opportunities out there on this track, but certainly one not for the faint of heart.
Certainly not. As well, we do have a little bit of a tutorial, a little bit of a track guide of how to negotiate this Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. It is coming right up.
Hi guys, I'm Kevin Ellis Jr., driver of the number 98 Apex Racing Team Porsche 992 in the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports Great British Championship. So Silverstone has always been one of my favourite circuits, and I'm going to take you through that today. The high-speed sections have created a really interesting dynamic, especially with the lack of downforce and the amount of weight that this car has. It requires a ton of precision, a ton of accuracy to really get the lap times out of it. So with that, let's take a look at the lap. So the first sector, right out the box, it's a make or break section. How you take turn 1 can massively influence how you take the very slow turn 3 and also turn 4 as well. So during the race, expect to see quite a lot of differing lines through here, as some people may choose to attack turn 1, drive it in quite deep, and then have quite a shallow line for turn 3, whereas others may take turn 1 a little bit slower, try and open up the 3 and 4 section, and then try and carry a little bit more speed out of there. As we then head down the straight, our next big challenge is the Brooklands and Lovefield section. So off the Wellington Straight, the big challenge here is going to be the off-track, the track limits. The boundaries are a fair bit stricter than they have been in the past, and that gives us a lot less room to work with here. The apex curb or Brooklands used to be a really popular area to drive over, just to open up Lovefield and give us a little bit more room to set up overtakes, but however that isn't now the case anymore. So that's going to make things just a little bit more difficult during the race to try and get a move set up. Once we come off of Copse, north of 200 km/h, we get the iconic Maggotts Beckett's Chapel S's. The updated track limits that I spoke about at Brooklands have also taken effect here, and that has left things really tough through there. It requires a lot more precision, even more than we used to in the past. And coming into here and qualifying, if you know that you're on a good lap, your heart rate's definitely going to be beginning to increase as you head into this section, as you need to be inch perfect to over 200 kph. Otherwise the track limits will ping you and your lap will be over. In the race, you need to manage it well in traffic to ensure you can get a good run onto the iconic hangar straight. Now, at the end of the hangar straight, we are left with, of course, Stowe. Now on the surface it seems like a bit of a basic, just sort of high-speed right-hander. However, it's slightly uphill braking. So of course you need to bear that in mind, especially on the qualifying lap as you approach into there. Gravity is going to be working against you just a little bit, so you don't need to brake quite as much as you might feel you need to. Once you get to the apex and begin to pick up throttle, the rear of the car really does begin to get quite light, and you're really going to be trying to manage some oversteer on the exit. The curb on the inside really helps to pull the car around as well, so you need to make sure that you make some use of that. Now, of course, at this stage of the lap, your rear tyres are really going to be screaming for mercy at this point. You've just had a couple really high-speed sections through Stowe, and then finally onto the brakes into Vale. Hard on the brakes from 5th all the way down into 2nd gear, all whilst traversing all these bumps and dips that can easily cause a lock-up right as you come to the end of the qualifying lap. You want to get as close as you can to the anti-cut on the left, and then on the right, and then finally on the exit you want to ease and just slowly, gently squeeze the throttle all the way to the line. Through the final right-hander at club, you want to keep your foot pinned and hope for the best and hope that the tyres can hang on just the final few metres across the line. As you can see, Silverstone has a ton of tough sequences that can string together and make for a really tough layout. Now join me while I take everything we've looked at for an onboard lap of this iconic British circuit. Alright then guys, so here we go to start a lap through the final corner and across the line. So down towards turn 1, and obviously as I said, it's a key section to get right. You're going to get onto the curb on the left, onto the brakes, down into 4th, cut as much of the first curb as you can here, and this is where the varying lines are going to happen here. So you can see on the exit of 2 here, we track out to roughly the middle of the track, braking at the 100, try and open this up as much as we can into 3 in 2nd gear, on power just before the apex, keep it nice and tight on the exit to open up for 4, and again on the power just before the curb. Traction out of turn 4 here is really difficult, so expect to see some drivers struggling with that during the race. 5 is a flat out kink, and then down the straight in towards Brooklands. So this is where I spoke about earlier with the tough track limits you're going to see on the apex here. We don't really take quite as much curb at the apex here. So down into 3rd, over the curb on the inside, try and keep the car a little bit more central for left field, hit the first apex, down into 2nd, and then diamond it and cut back for the 2nd apex. Short shift to 3rd there is, again, as we tend to struggle with low speed traction out of there, same as turn 4, so we're going to utilise a little bit of short shift in there. Now for cops, we're going to move over onto the curb on the left hand side, braking just at the 100, down into 4th, and then pick up the throttle just before those orange curbs on the inside. Watching for track limits on the exit, keep the car on the track, and then with that we're heading towards Maggots Beckett's. Want to get up over this red anti-cut as much as you can on entry to open up the corner. Cut the first right, down into 4th, into the second, into the first left, sorry, and then into the 2nd right, down into 3rd, picking up the throttle just before the curb. Watch for track limits on the exit as we then head down the iconic hangar straight and up and towards Stowe. Now for any of the guys who are a bit stronger through the Maggots Beckett section, this is probably going to be a good overtaking opportunity for them. In 6th gear up to 250 k's, braking just at the 100, down into 4th, and then utilising the curb on the apex to turn the car. Again on the exit here you can see we get a little bit loose just as the rear tyres begin to give up at the end of the lap, and then into Vale. Braking just before the 100, into 2nd, as close to the first anti-cut on the left, then into the right with a short shift to 3rd to help with traction, and then with that, flat out to the line and hope for the best. Alright guys, that's going to do it then for the first track walk of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great British Championship. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy the race as much as we are to drive.
Well, thank you very much. That's Kevin Ellis Jr. Of course, he's had a lot of success so far this weekend. Of course, getting himself the feature race win yesterday in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup at Barcelona. He's looking to try and carry that momentum into proceedings here today. Those are the track conditions out there on circuit. Relatively average, at least for iRacing. Pretty clear skies as well as we go racing in just a handful of moments' time. We still got the very end of the qualifying to get ourselves over and done with here, Paul. And well, the early laps have already been set, and it is Sebastian Job that leads the way with provisional pole position for the moment. But he's been tailed quite closely by the likes of Berryman, Moon, and Sedgwick.
Yeah, our returning champion is wanting to start where he finished off last season, isn't he? Yeah, he's definitely doing good so far. But you look at the Apex Racing team, they've got a strong lineup here today. They really have. I mean, you look at it, Kevin Ellis Jr., Pete Berryman, 2 World Championship drivers. They've also got people as well, like Blair Mann as well. You see, this is what happens when you do so many different series. When you've got people like Dan McCauley in there and Dane Baird, I knew that there was a B in there somewhere. But yeah, when you got those two there as well, they're involved in their academy lineup, and they're not slouchers, not slow drivers, that's for sure. Now, the reason why I bring up Blair Mann is that he races for Pure Sims, and I used to race for the preceding team to Pure Sims, so that's why I got Blair in my head.
Absolutely. Of course, the esports teams out in full force here. You see those fantastic liveries on a lot of the cars as well. It's great to see see these guys get themselves fully involved in everything here. And if you ask me, Paul, I think esports team liveries are a lot of the time better than real life liveries. Let's just say that. But not sure if you agree with me there, Paul. But at least that's my opinion.
You have more freedom, I feel, with the sports liveries compared to in the real world. I mean, you still have sponsor commitments, don't get me wrong, so you will have sponsors saying, right, we need to have certain colours and things like that, and positioning of logos and things like that. But yeah, you get a bit more freedom with what you get away with, and you see some more creative liveries out here in the world of sim racing.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 5 minutes left in qualifying here. We've got a handful of drivers that, actually 2 drivers to be exact, that have not set themselves qualifying times just yet. That's William Chadwick in the number 88 Team Fordzilla car, and Adam Brown in the number 16 at the very back of the order for Rethink Racing. So those 2 drivers have not been able to set themselves qualifying times just yet. Everyone else has. Those guys have still got time left in this session, though, but you don't really want to be pushing it this late. It just adds a lot of unneeded pressure. Here's the onboard then with Peter Berryman, and one of the things they have to do to try and go fast here in an open qualifying session such as this one, at a track where the draft is a bigger effect than at some others, is that you do need to team up with a couple of cars to try and share the drafting duties.
You certainly do, and you have to compromise a couple of your laps to help your teammates out, to then get your turn in the sun. So definitely it's going to be a compromise a little bit for yourself to then make it better for yourself later on. So, but Pete is a very experienced driver for Apex Racing team. See him going through the Beckett's and Chapel section down the hanger straight, and this is where he'll dart out to the left. There you go. Nice bit of slipstream down the hanger straight there. Fastest point of the track. Hit the brakes hard. Swing the car in. It's a lovely sweeping corner, this Stowe. Back end just kicking out a little bit on him there on corner exit. So that tells you that he's working those rear tyres hard in qualifying here. And it's the temperatures that are going to be key. And looking at our timing tower, Graham Carroll, it's a front row shared by Red Bull Racing Esports drivers.
Yeah, great. Oh, it's been spoiled though as Peter Berryman heads his way across the line. It was a Red Bull Racing Esports front row lockout for all of 5 seconds as Peter Berryman goes to second place in the current qualifying order. Still time left in the session for all of that to change as Berryman gets caught up in a little bit of traffic here coming through that first sector. The vast majority of the field out there in qualifying at the moment are in the same postcode with regards to where they are on circuit at the moment, within the same couple of corners. So everyone just trying to draft off of each other to try and get that last-ditch attempt in towards the end of this session. Remember, since this is a qualifying session as part of a heat racing session here on iRacing, you do not get that extra time at the end of the session to complete your lap. Once the clock hits 0, that is it. It goes into racing mode.
Yeah, you reach the end of that session, and then before you know it, it's a case of if you don't cross that line, really you want to be crossing that line in the next 5 or so seconds to be able to start your final lap, because once you get down to around about now, that's it. You won't have any more opportunity to finish your flying lap here on this type of qualifying. So the pressure's on for these drivers. They've got to get their final laps in, and well, Sebastian Job, our champion, sat on pit road at the moment. He's done.
He feels very confident about that lap time, I get the feeling. He's a handful of tenths of a second ahead of Berryman. He's the only driver in the 201s. So he feels pretty secure as far as the pole position is concerned, but are there any drivers further down the field that might be able to stage the upset here as we see these Apex cars come down in towards the pit lane, it seems. Peter Berryman comes down in. William Chadwick was able to set himself a lap time. He's up into P10 at the moment, so that means that Adam Brown's the only driver not to set a lap time currently, as we're seeing Kevin Ellis Jr. head his way across the line. What's the lap time going to be for Ellis Jr.? It's 2:02.086. It's a good lap time, not enough to get himself any further up the field, up into those top 3 spots. Here is John Derrick, P number 19 at the moment, and does improve on his lap time by about 0.3 of a second, gets himself up into P14. And we did see a lap time come through from Adam Brown as well, so he gets himself on the board. Every driver has been able to set a time here. Daniel McDonald heading his way across the line now. That is an improvement in time, not an improvement in position though, as we have the final 30 seconds of the session.
It's worth pointing out to anybody new watching this series, these drivers are all using the same setup. It's a fixed setup series, is this. So, you know, there's no sort of setup shenanigans going on. There's no, one team finding an extra tenth or two here or there. It's very much all about what the driver can do behind the wheel. So that's why you see times pretty close together out there at the start of this qualifying.
Absolutely, and well, with this last car heading its way through on the end of its qualifying lap, you see the session will end, and we will get ourselves the starting grid for race number 1 of the season here in the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports for Great Britain. We've got Sebastian Job on pole position with Peter Berryman second place. Graham Carroll will line up in third with Kevin Ellis Jr. in fourth. Jamie Moon will line up in fifth with Jack Cedric in sixth. Josh Thompson will line up 7th with Blair Mann in P8, Leon Penn in P9 with Matt Emery starting in 10th today. William Chadwick in P11 with Josh Poulan in P12. We've got Will Dragutha in P13 with John Derrick P14. Craig Williams starts in 15th with Conan Verne in P16 with Brandon Blakesley in P17. Daniel Thomas will start in 18th. Cycling your way towards the back now, we've got Adam Brown, Dane Baird, Daniel McCauley, Lewis Goodway, Daniel McDonald, and Michael Weddle rounding out the top 24 cars. And that is the entirety of the 24 cars that we have that will take the starting grid here today. So drivers slowly but steadily getting that gridding procedure underway. It does give us a couple of opportunities, small opportunities to get our points made before the start here, Paul. It's the start of the season. It's race number 1. Certainly the nerves have got to be pretty high.
Certainly will. That run through Abbey and Farm into Village for the first time, and the loop as well. Lap 1, you're on cold tyres, cold brakes. You've got to be so careful not to lock up into Village or the loop, or else you will end up wiping out 1 or 2 others out there. And then it's all about managing your race. You know, the track temperature is 35 degrees. So, it's warm, but it's not too hot. But still, towards the end of the race, the rear tyres, especially on these cars, will start feeling the effects of that. So, definitely, it's going to be an intriguing race how this goes, but it's hardly surprised with those up at the front of the field here in qualifying.
We just saw the R8G Academy car of Conan Verne, and now that is the Craig Setup Shop car, the number 36 of Craig Williams himself. So yeah, he was taking part last season as well. So maybe he can do the thing. He can show us what he's made of here in the first race of the season. Towards the back of the field, you do have the number 74 of Lewis Goodway. That's P22 on the starting grid for Lewis. We do have a rather extended gridding procedure here, so there's no rush in terms of the drivers trying to get themselves to the starting grid here today, but more and more of them are popping up and are ready to go. So Paul, sector 1, of course, you know, it's a very fast turn number 1, but your main bit of action, at least in towards the first lap here, will be down in towards Village, your first major braking point on the lap here today, as everyone's getting themselves ready now, and soon we'll be racing for the first round of the season. I certainly can't wait to get going. We will get the command in just a couple of moments' time from race control, and we'll be storming our way down in towards turn number 1. It's a new season here in the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports Great Britain. Round number 1 at Silverstone is underway. It's a good start from the front row from Peter Berryman in second place, as he'll try to angle towards the inside to try and cause Sebastian Job a problem in towards turn number 1, but he can't complete the move there as they wind their way through Abbey and through Farm for the first time. Onto the brakes in towards a Village then. The front couple of cars, mostly line astern. There's a bit of battling going on deeper in the pack as Graham Carroll's trying to fight it out with Kevin Ellis Jr. And Kevin Ellis Jr. is able to get himself up into P3, so a gained position for the feature race winner of the Porsche Carrera Esports Supercup yesterday, as you see Sebastian Job going all the way towards driver's left-hand side down the straight, and now we're onto the brakes in towards Brooklands. It's a pretty clean affair, at least for the front couple of cars, as Josh Thompson and Jamie Moon are going wheel to wheel.
Yeah, Thompson, we know how aggressive he is behind the wheel of any car that he races. He didn't have the best of times yesterday himself in the Porsche Carrera Esports Supercup, but right now he's putting the pressure on and he's wanted to get past Jamie Moon. We saw last season how Moon did and sort of progressed all the way through the season, but now it's a brand new season, brand new car as well. They certainly are going to be pushing hard and try and make the most of this opening lap while you get the chance. Got a bit of too wide action further down as well, and I think Will Tregerth has been dropping down the order.
Yeah, I think there might have been a slowdown penalty for Will, as he'll continue to lose spots here further down the order. So that is unfortunate, and of course it's a first lap slowdown penalty as well, so that just adds insult to injury because it has nothing to base the time penalty off, so it just basically gives you the maximum amount. So that's unfortunate there for the number 85 Williams Esports driver. Trouble ahead, big trouble, as Dane Baird has a spin and multiple bits of contact out of Stowe.
He's got going again though, and is obviously happy that there isn't any damage to his car, or if there is, it's minimal, so that means he's going to carry on and keep going there. But he's all the way to the back of the field now, so that means that he is dead last, and he'll be well, struggling to get any points at this race.
Yeah, Adam Brown came up on that hot. It was a solo car incident there for Dane Baird, just getting the back end out through Stowe. The car broke traction, and there's really not a lot of places that Adam Brown could have gone. So it's one of those things where you just have to pick a line and hope and pray it works, but this time it didn't for Brown. So that's unfortunate there. Certainly an incident that wasn't his doing, as we'll get to see the replay of things here. You can see Baird just going to the inside and not having as much grip as he expected down there.
Carrying a little bit more speed than the line that he was taking was going to give him, and therefore just the back end goes around. And when the back end on this car goes around, it's like a pendulum, because you got that engine hanging over the rear wheels. Once you go past a certain angle, the forces of the laws of physics take over and you end up pirouetting around. But this front pack right now has just settled into a little bit of a rhythm, I feel, here. Berryman and Ellis Jr., they'll be pushing Sebastian. They'll be trying to force him to use his tyres in these early stages, because he's forging a path at the front, breaking the air up for those that are behind. But they've got to be wary of Graham Carroll as well behind, because we know how Carroll can be a really good teammate to Sebastian.
Yeah, can be as well, but he's not really in a position where he's able to do some good work for him at the moment. He's got himself a a bit of a gap between himself and the top 3 cars, as we ride on board with Kevin Ellis Jr. E3 at the moment. And well, it's basically these 2 Apex Racing Team cars up against the Red Bull Racing Esports machine of Sebastian Job here at the very front of the field. So Job's going to be feeling the pressure a little bit, but we know Sebastian. He's a Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup champion. He's a Porsche Carrera Cup Esports Great Britain champion. He knows how to deal with situations like this, and it's happened to him more often than not in both series.
And he's also raced these drivers many a time. You know, Berryman and Ellis Jr., those two have fought with Sebastian. In fact, they used to be teammates of his, of course, back when Sebastian used to race for Apex Racing team. So definitely, they know Sebastian, and they know how to push his buttons and try and put the pressure on. And we have seen in the past that Sebastian, if things just don't go his way, things just seem to just not go his way, and then he starts to make mistakes because he's trying to force things a bit too hard, and before you know it, he's going backwards down the field. So he's got to just keep focused forward, keep looking forward, and try to keep that lead, and also manage his own race as well.
Yeah, it's so important in situations like this. You can tell the difference between Berryman and Ellis Jr. It's the rim colours that they've decided to go with. I do very much appreciate painted rims. Not everyone does, but Peter Berryman with the bright pink / purple on his wheels there, which he's been using for a very long time, by the way. You know, always since the Old World Championship Grand Prix series here on iRacing. Here comes Peter Berryman, though, making the move on Sebastian Job in towards Stowe, hanging it on that inside. Racing room given between the two of them. Now what can Kevin Ellis Jr. do here? We're on this onboard, just watching this battle ahead. There's a bit of door-to-door contact between the leaders. Sebastian Job maintains the race lead. Berryman falls off a little bit, but that was the first shot of many.
That was all fair in love and war. That was just a little bit of a, you know, Sebastian showing, look, I'll turn in when I want to turn into the corner, and Pete ended up into the side of his car because he wanted to turn in to the Vale and then club. So yeah, Berryman just dropping back a little bit, but that's the first shot fired. That's the first attempt by Peter. He'll certainly be back and push on again, but you know, Sebastian, he is an experienced young man, and he really knows how to work it. But Berryman, we've seen time and again, even in this series last season, how he can push all the way.
Yeah, he can, and well, it might have to be 18 more minutes of pushing. Hopefully not literally so, as contact not as you know, looked favourably upon in this compared to things like touring cars and things like that. But either way, Berryman knows what needs to be done. As lose that, that's 24 off the circuit. That is...
That's 74.
Oh, 74, excuse me. Yeah, Lewis Goodway having some problems, and yeah, never want to see that. Didn't quite see what sort of instigated that whole situation there, as we see yet more fighting here in the mid-pack. Jamie Moon, Josh Thompson. Trying to go wheel-to-wheel, big contact though. Josh Thompson off out into the run-up. There were other drivers caught up in that one behind as well. The 75 had to try and take avoiding action. That was indeed Jamie Moon, which the car he had contact with. But yeah, that's that was a bit hairy.
It looked to me like Moon just had the back end step out on him, and it overcorrected and just snapped on him into Thompson. I'd love to get another look at that one, but yeah, Thompson trying to go around the outside into the first part of Beckett's. It is a brave move. You can make it, but you've got to have a bit of cooperation. But I think, as I say, just on that first look, it looked like Moon just had a little bit of a slide, and he had to correct it, and it just went and snapped on him.
Yeah, we'll get a good look at it from this angle. You can see the car just didn't want to comply, didn't want to grip up on that inside line. Back end stepped out. It reminds me a lot of the situation that we saw with Baird earlier on the inside of Stowe. It seems like when you just try and drive it in that aggressively towards the inside, this car, or at least this setup, doesn't really like it when you do that.
It doesn't appear to, and now it's that distinctive delivery of Craig Williams getting ahead now. So Craig up ahead of Moon. Moon is trying to recover, as is Josh Thompson. Now Thompson, he is in 10th place right now. This Jamie Moon has actually pulled us off out of that incident, but Craig Williams leading this queue of traffic. He's got Moon, he's got Josh Poulin, he's got Conan Wern. There's also Will Tregurtha in there, of course, who races in the full metal motorsport, as John Hindhoff likes to say on Radio Le Mans. But yeah, he's certainly an experienced and wily character, as Will.
Yeah, he is, and well, currently mid-pack after falling back after qualifying. Of course, he suffered the early slowdown penalty to put him all the way back into that position there back in P15. He's slowly but steadily working his way through the field, though, like we just saw. Started P13, so he's almost back up to where he started here, and that's with almost 10 minutes gone in this race. Here's the battle for first place then, down at the Hangar Straight. Once again, is Berryman going to, well, he's just going to show the nose here. He's not going to go for the big old dive down the inside just yet. And, well, even if he did, it probably wouldn't pull off for him. So 15 minutes left to go now. Berryman getting a very, very good run out of Stowe. Will he be able to, well, just have a look. Berryman is such a calculated character sometimes. He's not just going to go for an open door just because it's open, but there's still a low possibility of making the move happen.
Yeah, it's certainly been intriguing to watch. Just you see again the Apex drivers have just got themselves into a rhythm again after Pete's first attempt on Sebastian about 4 minutes ago. He's just trying to just line him up, and he's seeing where his weak points are, seeing where Sebastian is slower than him around this track and trying to set him up. I mean, I'm looking at the pace that they're running, the average, the last lap, these drivers were doing 203 zeros, 203 ones, and Graham Carroll actually 202.8. Everybody else in the field is either mid 203s or high 204s, so it just shows the speed that these drivers have got at the front here compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it would be, well, no surprise if I told you that these drivers at the front, well, they all compete in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup, so it's, yeah, so they're going to pull away and do their thing at the very front of the field, and, well, it seems like it's a scrap for just the remaining positions between everyone else as the front four train continues to pull away. You can see the battle for ninth down in the bottom right-hand side of your screen there, involving Thompson, Chadwick, Derek, Williams, that sort of area on the circuit. Remember, this isn't the only race, though, that we're going to be having today. We'll have the second race after a 5-minute break at the end of this one, and that will be the grid of that will be based on the results of this, but with the top 6 cars reversed. Here's another attempt by Peter Berryman down the inside at Stowe. Sebastian Job has been pretty comfortable holding the outside here. They get very, very close on the exit curb. Job still ahead, but Berryman's able to maintain the overlap coming into Vale. It's very, very difficult to make a pass around the outside there happen, though, and Kevin Ellis Jr. will nip up underneath his teammate and take P2.
Oh, now let's see what Kevin can do. But Graham Carroll behind as well. He's putting the pressure on Berryman here. It's an Apex Racing Team sandwich with the Red Bull cars acting as the bread in that one. But Kevin Ellis Jr., we saw, as we mentioned earlier on, how he yesterday won the feature race in the Porsche Carrera Esports Supercup. And so he's on a real high at the moment, and he'll be feeling very confident in how he's going. Berryman back into the World Championship Series this season as well, so it's good to see him back. But Graham Carroll, he's looking a bit feisty. We've seen this year so far that he's not afraid to make some moves, is Graham, so don't count him out of this one yet. This could just all be a case of drivers trying to look after the cars and tyres at the moment, because track temperature has stayed stable, shall we say. So that means that things, you know, are as they were at the start of the race.
Yeah, a 25-minute race, not really pushing the extremities of the tyre performance in terms of wear, so these guys should be relatively fine to the end of these races here, unless they decide to overheat and take too much out of the tyres a little bit too early on in the race. That can and does happen, but with 11 minutes to go now through Maggots and Beckett, now on that slight left-hander through Chapel. It was a poor run, though, for Kevin Ellis Jr. through that sequence of corners, and you can see the gap has developed a little bit more between Job and Ellis Jr. for P1 and P2. It's over half a second now between those drivers, so it was... So there's going to be no opportunities for a change of race lead here, at least for the next couple of laps, I get the feeling, because of that gap developing. And, well, we don't know what Graham Carroll's going to have to do in this situation as well. He's been sitting there very patiently in 4th place, just watching proceedings. You know, he was slightly adrift at the start of the race as the front three pulled away, but since these guys have been battling, he's back in contention, back in the slipstream, and Job will very, very much appreciate that, having that rear gunner, so to speak.
I don't think that Kevin will be too worried about that little bit of a gap that's formed there at the front. He'll be worried if it goes more towards 1 second. That's where he'll start thinking, I need to find an extra few tenths here. But right now he's still sat in that slipstream, so he's not really worried about it. Will Tregurtha, not Will Tregurtha, Will Chadwick, should I say, trying to fight his way through as well. In 10th place at the moment, got Leon Penn in front of him and John Derrick behind, and they've got Josh Thompson just at the front of this little gaggle of cars right now. Down the inside goes Chadwick. Can he make it past Penn? Not so far. He's got Luffield to go around, but it's a long way around the outside, and that's left him open there. And John Derrick is going to say, thank you very much then. I'm coming through here.
Well, Derrick's going to run out of steam a little bit through Woodcote, and he's going to have to drop in behind for Copse Corner. So that's the position defended by William Chadwick there. Derrick having to try and find another little place on the circuit where he's going to have to try and get himself through. But we are starting to run a little low on time here at the moment. Of course, this is a 25-minute race. We're into the final 9 minutes now. And, well, battle's still developing in that mid-pack. But this is the sort of main event that we've been witnessing here. The top 4 battle. Job, Ellis Jr., Berryman and Carroll all stuck together like glue. That gap is coming down slightly to Sebastian Job, as Ellis and Berryman are still within drafting distance of your race leader. So Job hasn't been able to pull that gap up to about a second, like you mentioned, Paul, to be able to try and break away fully. He still has to be looking in his rearview mirrors.
Something that all these drivers will be having to keep an eye on, as well as their incident points. There's a 15 incident point limit, and then for every 1 incident over that, you start adding a time penalty to the race stewards. Although they do have a caveat in there, as if you were involved in an incident that wasn't your fault, or say you were avoiding an incident and you had to go off track, then they do have the ability to mitigate that and not give a time penalty for that 1 incident. But yeah, definitely they've got to be careful of instant points. Here's Will Chadwick right now. A bit more calm, is in the queue and working his way down towards Brooklands once again. And such a challenging corner as this to get right, because you have to set up then Luffield. A lot of the cars taking the line where they V it off, so they effectively make Woodcote a 2 apex corner, whereas some prefer to just hug that apex all the way around. So the 2 apex approach gives you a little bit of a better launch off of the corner, out of the corner exit down towards Luffield, and that will be an off-track incident, and he realises it, yeah. William.
Yeah, just a little frustrated at that one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Through Luffield there, it also depends as well. It's driver preference plus how is the setup handling, how's the car handling, you know, as to which approach is more comfortable coming through that corner. Well, the setup is pretty limited because, you know, it's a fixed setup in this race, so everyone has the same thing. So it's just kind of not surprising that everyone's taking the same approach to that piece of circuit. But for the moment, things at the front have kind of calmed down a little bit. This is why we're watching back here, because we see the number 36 of Craig Williams, and of course we got Josh Poulan and Williams Esports driver involved. Big lockup from Poulan. Oh, that's a bit embarrassing there with the half spin on the entry to the Vale. Well recovered though.
he was rubbing door handles, as you can see by the side of his car right there, the 33. But yeah, going into the Vale, all locked up. It's so easy to do with this car, changing down gears. If you pull a gear at the wrong time when you're changing down, it can lock those rear tyres up, and before you know it, you're half spinning around. But good recovery to be able to keep it pointing in the right direction. But right now, Josh feeling under pressure into the loop, and straight away on the counter attack. But he's still got a car alongside him. You can see he'd take that tighter line on the exit. Gets the job done though, back up to 17th.
Yeah, so able to get through on Daniel Thomas there, and well, continue on his merry way. But the next car further down the road is about a second or so down there to Brandon Blakesley. So that's going to be the next target. But for now, you can see there is Brandon Blakesley, in fact, as from the Vulcan Sim Racing team, currently residing in P16 in this event. So it's kind of fortunate that the front has come down a little bit, because it does give us an opportunity to shine the spotlight on some of these drivers in the mid-pack and further back, because they deserve just as much airtime as the guys at the very front. But I get the feeling this battle at the front will start to pick up again here, because we've got Sebastian Job Jr. within 0.2 of a second of each other. So that gap, that advantage that Sebastian Job had, has been all gobbled up, and well, the fight's back on.
Yeah, I think the last 2 laps is where the gloves are going to come off here, and business will pick up, because Job now is coming under some intense pressure. Ellis Jr., we know how aggressive he is, but we know how respectful these two are as well, don't forget. You know, last season, they went door handle to door handle at multiple rounds of this championship. You can see, look at how much work Sebastian's having to put into the wheel there to keep this car in a straight line. Great that these drivers give us these views, these little looks, these insights into how they're driving. Ellis Jr., look at contact between the two of them. But Job, you see those reactions? Straight away sorts it out, but he is under intense pressure.
And Kevin Ellis Jr. has got the run down the straight here as well. He'll angle towards the inside for the next braking zone in towards Brooklands then. Is this going to be our first change of the race lead of the season? Well, Ellis Jr. just a quarter of a car length ahead through the corner, but the overlap is maintained by Sebastian Job, who has the inside now through Luffield. Is he going to squeeze Kevin off the corner? Oh, just about gives him room on the curb. Ellis Jr. now has a bit more of a run here through Woodcut, but around the outside of Cop's corner, surely not. He's gaining a little bit more speed now as they dive their way into the fast right-hander. Ellis Jr. wheeling it around the outside. Oh, there's a bit of contact as well. And now here comes a run from Peter Berryman, who gives a shot to the back bumper of his teammate to keep himself in the fight. And Sebastian Job is continuing to try and hang in there, but he can't do much, as Kevin Ellis Jr. now has the race lead with 3 minutes to go.
Oh my goodness, it was heart-in-mouth stuff there on the exit of Cops. My goodness. Who was it that said you can't overtake at Cops? Oh, that's a little bit rude there, Sebastian. I know you're looking forward, and he's going to the inside of Stowe. Well, I said the gloves were coming off here. They certainly are.
This is fantastic, and well, Kevin gave Job a bit of a shot to the back bumper through Stowe as well. There's certainly no love lost in all this battling. Meanwhile, Graham Carroll pulling off a pass on Peter Berryman, so Carroll up to 3rd place. So Red Bull Racing Esports P1, P3, Apex Racing Team P2, P4. It has all changed a little bit here in this lap of racing, and we've still got 2 minutes to go, and well, who knows what might happen here. This has been crazy.
It's going to be close as to what we should get another lap out of all of this, because the time won't have ticked down. Graham Carroll to the inside of the loop. He's trying to compromise Kevin Ellis Jr.'s line there to give Sebastian Job a bit of a run and a bit of clean air, and that's exactly what he's done there. This is great teamwork from both teams. They've both been working really well with their compatriots, so definitely it's really entertaining racing up here. But I think the Scotsman Graham Carroll went, oh, there's a fight going on. Oh, I want a piece of the action as well.
I don't blame Carroll whatsoever. It was a good opportunistic move through the Vale to get that pass done on Berryman, and now Kevin Ellis Jr. is the one sandwiched between cars of two of the same team here as Sebastian Job pulls away 4.5 tenths of a second. It's not side by side in towards Copse Corner this time around, but will we get that extra lap? That is the question. I'm seeing on my timing screen no, but sometimes iRacing has this habit of giving us the extra lap sometimes when we don't expect. But 1 minute left to go on the clock as they head their way through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. We might get one more lap of this. We'll only know once they get roughly near the line.
The speed and the level of performance that these drivers are doing. I mean, all this battling has actually slowed these guys down, and Jack Sedgwick and Blair Mann actually took out about 1.5 seconds out of our race leader Sebastian Job last lap. So that tells you what the scrapping has been doing out there. We should get one more lap to go here, because at 30 seconds into the Vale, that should be nicely across the line to start one more lap.
That's a bug report submitted to my timing screen provider as we see Sebastian Job out of the final corner. 20 seconds left to go, plenty of time to get this final lap in. There's the confirmation of it in the top left-hand side of your screen. Another lap around to decide these podium positions. Job still has a little bit of a buffer between himself and Ellis Jr. It requires a massive, huge effort of a qualifying lap for Kevin Ellis Jr. to be able to put himself in a position where he might be able to make the pass at the end of this lap. It would be, well, the main opportunity is in towards Stowe, in towards Vale for, on the final lap here, but he needs to get close enough to make that work, and Graham Carroll has a good run out of the corner. Well, it would be well within his rights to challenge into Brooklands there, but instead decides to stay behind. And of course, you've got Peter Berryman on the outside looking into this battle as well. What effect will he have in this fight for the top four? Really, it's a fight for P2 at the moment, unless there's a mistake from Sebastian Job or Ellis Jr. has sector 2 of his life. Coming up towards Copse Corner now. Still no moves to the inside, still no looks here and there. I think this is all going to come down to Stowe and Vale now.
Certainly is. Slipstream is king down the Hanger Straight. Get the run out of Chapel. So through Beckett's classic camera shot there. I've seen the cars on the limit through Beckett's here. And it's the run out of this corner then and through the left at Chapel is how it dictates going into Stowe.
Here we go then, down the Hanger Straight for the final time in race number 1. We've got another race after this one, by the way. It's been action-packed here at Silverstone. Into the braking zone of Stowe Corner. No one close enough to make a move just yet. It might have to be a big look and a big send in towards Vale. At least that's the option open to Graham Carroll. I don't think Ellis Jr. is close enough to challenge the race leader. They're all single file through the chicane, through the final couple of corners. And well, it was a championship win last season for Sebastian Job, and he starts off on the right foot here today. In 2022, he takes the race 1 win here at Silverstone. Further back, you've got the rest of the runners now. William Chadwick, P9, Leon Penn, P10, Jamie Moon, P11. You see Tregertha and Williams and Zwern head their way through as well. A little bit of a calm affair as far as final laps go. I think we had all of our excitement in the 2 and 3 to go laps. But either way, we've still got another race to go, still another 25 minutes. And remember, reverse grid is in effect as well, and it will be Blair Mann that's on pole position for that one. So here's the confirmation, the unofficial race results pending steward's review. Sebastian Job, then you've got Kevin Ellis Jr., then Graham Carroll, Peter Berryman, Jack Sedgwick, Blair Mann. Those are the 6 cars that will get themselves reversed. Then you've got Matt Emery, Josh Thompson, William Chadwick, and Leon Penn rounding out the top 10. So now down to P20, you've got Jamie Moon, John Derrick, Will Tregertha, Craig Williams, Conan Wern, Josh Poulan. We've got Daniel Thomas, Brandon Brixley, Daniel McCauley, and Michael Weddle is down there in P20. We've got P21, Daniel McDonald, Dane Baird, Adam Brown, and Lewis Goodway rounding out the 24 car finishing results. Lewis Goodway, your only retirement in race number 1. It's good that we get these 5 minutes to catch our breaths, Paul, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, that was sensational racing there from all the drivers in this grid, and certainly the drivers at the front of the grid gave us a heck of a show, that is for sure. So definitely we've got this little 5-minute warm-up session now for drivers just to get themselves prepared. Some will choose to just take it easy, relax, rest, get a drink or two, just to rehydrate. Whereas Sebastian Job actually is the only one out on track right now. He's trying to get a feel of the conditions. The track is still 35 degrees in this warm-up session, so it's not like it's cooled down significantly or heated up significantly.
Yeah, of course, drivers will always keep half an eye on what the track conditions are doing. Not that it'll change too much, given the event is as short as it is. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you know, that more information is always better. That's what I'll say with regards to that. But yeah, drivers preparing themselves now for race number 2. We will have highlights of race number 1 coming at you in just a handful of moments' time. But yeah, top 6 reverse grid though, Paul. Blair Mann will get himself onto pole position. It's Jack Sedgwick P2 and Peter Berryman in 3rd and Graham Carroll in 4th. So those are your front 2 rows.
This is a good opportunity for Sedgwick, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
To get himself a good result here. So definitely, he is somebody who can pull out a result or two. That is for sure. Blair Mann, he'll be delighted to find himself on the front row of the grid, and Pure Sims, they'll be delighted with that.
Yep, gives them an opportunity. Well, if the chaos starts happening behind them, then potentially it might be a race win for either Blair Mann or Jack Sedgwick starting from the front row, depending on what happens behind them and if they are able to break away. That's what makes these reverse grids so interesting, is that they can throw out some surprising results from time to time, and it keeps the grid relatively close together. Here's the highlights, though, for race number 1. It was a decent start for both of the front row guys. However, it was Sebastian Job that was able to cover off all the moves in through Sector 1 and, well, lead the vast majority of this race. There was basically a few corners where Kevin Ellis Jr. Was able to get himself ahead, but it was Sebastian Job showing what he's made of here. A championship winner last time, Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup champion as well. There's the spin from Blair Mann through Stoke Corner, which resulted in some unfortunate contact with Brown from behind. But this was the main feature of the entire thing, this crazy fight for those race leading positions.
Yeah, Berryman, he was trying to make the moves. Job was not having any of it and just didn't give the space. And as I said, Berryman wanted to turn in. Here's the contact for Lewis Goodway. Around he went. He must have hit the barrier to end his race. This is a heart-in-mouth moment for Josh Thompson. You can see the car on the inside just losing the back end. And around it goes. And Jack Sedgwick just goes, okay, see you later, boys. But it was still that battle at the front then that we saw. It was Pete Berryman. He was compromised in his line. That allowed Kevin Ellis Jr. to move up into 2nd place.
It did when we had our fair share of mid-pack battles as well. William Chadwick getting himself involved in that Team Fordzilla machine, getting the elbows out slightly as the 17 and the 88 just lean on each other. 17, of course, being Leon Penn further back through the order there. But it was some great fights here in the mid-pack. Of course, the front of the field stole the show a little bit, but there was a fair share of excitement back here. Even spins in towards Vale, but this was the sort of finale of that front of the pack battle between the Apex Racing team cars and the lone Red Bull Racing Esports driver of Sebastian Job, the 98 holding on there. But Kevin wasn't quite able to maintain the race lead as Sebastian Job got it back.
Yeah, that was... sometimes you have to be just straight away, get the move and get it done down the inside to make it count. So definitely Sebastian, he was on the offense straight away. He saw Pete Berryman as well behind trying to overtake Graham Carroll, but that wasn't going to happen there. Carroll did have a look towards the end down the inside of Ellis Jr. and I think that is the crucial point where Sebastian Job secured his win there. It just gave him that little bit of a gap across the line.
It really did, and well, it was a very, very special first race of the season. You can see the relief there from Sebastian Job after all that pressure. But here's the starting grid then for race number 2. It's the results of race number 1, but the top 6 reversed. So we've got Blair Mann on pole position with Jack Sedgwick P2, Peter Berryman P3 with Graham Carroll P4 with Kevin Ellis Jr. P5, and Sebastian Job will have to start from 6th in this second race. Matt Emery, he'll miss out on a reverse grid pole position in P7 with Josh Thompson in P8, William Chadwick P9, Leon Penn P10, Jamie Moon P11, John Derrick will line up in 12th place. We've got about 2 minutes before we get the green flag here. Will Sugartha P13 with Craig Williams P14, Conan Wern in P15, Josh Pullen will start in 16th with Daniel Thomas 17th, Brandon Blakesley in P18. And then you have at the very back of the field Daniel McCauley, Michael Weddle. We've got Daniel McDonald, Dane Baird, Adam Brown, and Lewis Goodway at the very back. Let's see if how many positions they're able to gain to have a little bit of a better time here in race 2 compared to race number 1. So, gridding procedure is underway once again. Race number 2 is coming up at you in just about a minute and a half's time. And if it's anywhere near as exciting as race number 1, well, you certainly want to stay tuned for.
Well, what you've got here is you've got Blair Mann and Jack Sedgwick, who are going to be determined to try and keep a hold of those front 2 positions at the front, whereas you've got Pete Berryman, Graham Carroll, Kevin Ellis Jr., Sebastian Job will all be scrapping away to try and get themselves to the front of the field. So that's going to be intriguing itself. You've got Josh Thompson trying to make a bit more of a recovery drive as well in all of this. Will Chadwick, 9th place, he'll be hoping for a good result out of this. You've also got Jamie Moon will be trying to do a bit of a recovery drive in all of this. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing race, and hopefully everybody can keep it clean, because that first race, to be fair, was pretty much exactly what we want out there. Hard but fair racing.
Indeed it was. Fantastic racecraft on display from those guys at the very front. As we've got most of our drivers on the starting grid for race number 2, the reverse grid race here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. We're about to go racing once again here at the Silverstone GP circuit. Drivers are waiting for that signal to get themselves prepared and heading down in towards turn number 1. So race number 2 then about to get underway here at Silverstone. The reverse grid race for the first event of the season is now underway. What a launch though from Peter Berryman from the second row. He's completely disposed of Jack Sedgwick already, and now he's challenging for the race lead in through the first turn. What a start from Berryman, but can he get to the race lead through the first sector? He's angling his way down towards the inside now, and well, has he overcommitted though? Blair Mann will look to cut back off the corner. Oh, this is getting a bit too close for comfort. 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 for the leaders all the way through this first sector, and now onto the Wellington Straight for the first time in race number 2. Berryman has gotten the best start I've seen in years.
That was a tremendous launch off the line. Of course, these cars, you can cook the clutch in these cars and get an awful start. We've seen it in the past. So definitely, yeah, a brilliant start from Berryman to get that launch. Jack Sedgwick getting himself back into second place. But Blair Mann will be proving his losses there down to 4th place.
Yeah, and well, he might even lose another position here because Sebastian Job is angling to the inside here. Job just has to be a bit careful. He can't get himself caught up in an early instant here. He has the support from Graham Carroll behind, who gets up right behind him and pushes him along the circuit into Maggots and Beckett's, and Sebastian Job gains the position. Can Graham Carroll follow through in his tyre tracks, though? I think he might just be able to through Beckett's, and now in towards Chapel. Blair Mann's trying to hold on for dear life, but it was an opportunity sort of in the bin at the moment for Blair Mann. Not getting a good start in the pole position, getting swamped by drivers behind, and now he's continuing to fall back as Josh Thompson wants a piece of the pie as well, as we look towards the very front, because Kevin Ellis Jr. and Jack Sedgwick are going wheel to wheel. So Ellis Jr. looking to get up into P2 early on, swinging his way around the outside at the first apex of the Vale will give him the inside for the second apex. There's a tiny bit of contact coming off the corner, and Jack Sedgwick will get the good run off, but the inside line for Kevin Ellis Jr. will give him a bit more in terms of looking for an opportunity into turn number 1. gone late on the brakes into there. You only tap them through turn number 1, and Kevin Nash Jr. is able to file his way through. Is there a response from Cedric, though, on the brakes in towards the village? There isn't, because he's more concerned about Job.
Yeah, Job, it was crucial for Job to get that move done early on Blairman to get ahead to try and chase down the 2 Apex Racing Team cars, but Cedric, he's not one for backing down out of a fight. He'll be a little bit disappointed in that, to be honest, but he's focusing forward. He's not looking backwards. He's got Graham Carroll behind him. Cedric and Carroll, now that's a couple of people who have fought many a years in sim racing, and it's certainly a battle for the ages, that's for sure. But right now, Cedric out of the field, 4th place. Carroll right behind. He'll want to get past Cedric as quickly as possible to try and hang on to his teammate to provide that backup.
Yeah, it does, and we've seen how the teamwork can really pay dividends already in race number 1. So the Red Bull Racing Esports guys trying to work through the field together, although being separated by Cedric at the moment. We got the 2 Apex Racing Team cars, P1, P2, Berryman and Ellis Jr. Well, they've had basically a dream start here today. They've gotten themselves through on the traffic pretty easily. Berryman with that incredible start, able to get disposed of both the front runners, well, at least both the front row starters through the first sector, and well, continues to pull away now. He's almost got a second on his teammates, and now what is the situation here for Kevin Nash Jr.? Does he beat Berryman's best friend and hold everyone up?
He's got to think of his own championship, as there goes Jack Cedric, fired around at the Vale and into Club. Oh, and he's going to be seeing all these cars going past him as he tries to recover. He's made it back on cleanly, that's good. Yeah, that was, I think, contact between him and Graham Carroll. We'll have to see what happened there. But definitely, as it go through Abbey for this next time. But yeah, you look at Berryman and Ellis Jr. At the end of the day, yes, they're teammates, but they're also fighting for a championship themselves. So they'll want the best possible start to their championship, and Ellis Jr. got a second place last race. Could he get a second place this time? I mean, I'm sorry, Graham, but I'm going to have to call you on that one. You need to back out of that one. You're not far enough alongside to make that move, in my opinion. Yeah,
I think so as well. It was the tiniest of taps, but that's sometimes all that's needed to spin these cars around. Like you said at the very start of the broadcast ball, due to all the weight being at the back. Once you get it all out of shape, then it's very hard to try and recover from that one. Someone's off. Daniel McCauley, I believe, was off there. I just spotted it through Woodcut there. As what has happened to McCauley? Oh, just getting all sorts out of shape, pushed it in a little bit too wide on the exit of the field, and well, out into the grass he goes. And well, it's very tricky to save a car in that situation once you dip those 2 tyres into the grass.
Now, you see, if I didn't know that rain wasn't a thing on iRacing yet, I would say that looking at how dark it is, that you would think that rain was on its way, but it's not. It's just very overcast suddenly, isn't it, out there? So there is a bit of cloud cover. That's helping them with the track temperature. It's cooled it down. And these drivers will be pushing just that little bit harder because they can keep their tyres in the temperature range that little bit easier with these cars. And yeah, you said it in the first race. It is a 25-minute race. The tyres will give you the grip, but it's the heat that you put through them that will affect it more. And because there is a lot, there's only 1 or 2 where it's a real slow down, stop and accelerate away. It's not too bad around Silverstone. It's more that front left that you're punishing around here.
Yeah, that's well, that's also the case in the real world, isn't it? Because so many high-speed right-handers really leans on that particular tyre. But you know, like I said earlier on, you know, it's a 25-minute race, so it's in terms of absolute wear on the tyres, it's not going to be a major factor. But like you said, it's the overheating that becomes more of a problem. Here's a replay of the race start then, from up above to see, especially in particular, what happened in the mid-pack. Someone was very slow getting away there on the right-hand side of the picture. We almost had even 3 wide for the race lead in towards turn number 1 for the first time. But everyone getting away, if not completely cleanly, then at least having no contact, and then heading our way down in towards the braking zone for Abbey. Well, excuse me, not Abbey, for Village. We did have a little bit of an incident towards the very back involving the number 60 car. That's Daniel Thomas, and well, there's more carnage through the end of Sector 1.
It was Craig Williams who got the slow getaway on the right-hand side of the grid, and I said you can cook your clutch a little bit on this car, and that's most likely what happened there. So you've got the front 3, they're all together right there. Graham Carroll, he's just staying in touch, and Josh Thompson, he's loitering around as well. He's in the background. He's not involved in this battle, but he's there, if you know what I mean. He's just there to take advantage of anything that happens, is what I'd say right now.
But my favourite comment about Josh Thompson came from the Porsche Twitch chat last race was, wait, Josh Thompson survived lap 1 of a Porsche race?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, yeah, it doesn't usually happen that way for Thompson. So a decent race 1, and now looking like a decent race number 2 as well. And he potentially can lock onto the back of this leading train as well, especially if these guys start fighting like they did in race number 1. Here's the move to the inside, though, for Sebastian Job. Coming through the loop, and now through the left-hander on towards Wellington Straight. They're still absolutely level coming off the corner, but due to the wider arc, Kevin Ellis Jr. will have a little bit more speed on the way in towards Brooklands. The Job still has a nose in there. He's still going to go for it through the left of Brooklands, and it'll become the outside for Lovefields. No switchback through here for Sebastian Job. He's continuing to cause Ellis Jr. a few problems here in terms of the lost time to his teammates, but more importantly for Ellis Jr., he remains ahead, only marginally low. Sebastian Job will continue in his slipstream down the old pit straight, and now looking to the inside through Copse Corner. He's going to go for the move this early on in the race. There's space given by Ellis Jr. Not a lot, but still space given. And Job getting the run off of Copse Corner now still might be tempted to have a look into Baggins and Beckett, but going to stay in line for now. You don't want to be... well, I was going to say you don't want to be pulling off those risky moves this early on, but he did go to the inside of Copse after all.
Yeah, he did do that, and it's incredible how when both drivers give each other space through Copse Corner, you can go through there side by side. But anyway, what this has done is Berryman is just laughing at all of this. He's loving this battle because it's slowing each other down and allowing him to run away. Job to the inside of Stowe. Now this is the opposite of what was happening in the first race. That means that he's in that different position compared to where he was. But now he's trying to get the run through Club here and try and get the exit on Kevin Ellis Jr. But Ellis Jr. is experienced enough in this, and he's hanging on to that position for the time being. He's still got a little bit of the slipstream of his teammate in front as well. And as I said, you had Carroll just hanging off the back of them while he's closed up, and now Josh Thompson as well closing up to the back of this battle.
Yeah, so, you know, this is exactly what I was talking about with Josh Thompson. If these guys start fighting, then Thompson is still within this one and, well, maintains... well, he's basically completely locked onto the back of all of them now as we get the view from up above of things going on inside of the mid-pack, of course. You know, it's not just these guys at the very front that are concerned about trying to defend or attack. It's everyone else further down the field involved in their little situations. They have their own targets about where to finish in this race as well. So for some of them, even the top 10 would be a pretty good day at the office. But yeah, we're still quite far from the end of the race at the moment. 25-minute of race, of course. We've got less than 14 to go. So still lots could happen in this one. And, well, Berryman is enjoying a bit of a buffer at the very front at the moment. Still not larger than a second, which means the group behind him are out of his slipstream. But still, he doesn't have to worry immediately about any dives or looks to the inside or outside.
And it makes such a difference when you've not got that worry of where's that car, are they going to make a move here, are they looking to be inside? When you can just focus on your own driving and just look forward, look for your brake markers, looking for your turn-ins, getting your lines right. You pick up more speed that way than if you're in front of somebody and you've got half an eye on your mirrors. You know, don't go driving in your mirrors is one piece of advice I once got given about sim racing. Just look forward and just concentrate on your lines. And then yes, if you have got a driver there, just odd glances. You don't need to be watching all the time in your mirror.
Don't, and well, it's sometimes just that, you know, you're adding pressure to yourself if you're always watching your mirrors. You're always watching the F3 box that we call it in iRacing to show the relative time between you and those around you. Sometimes you start to get a little bit paranoid, and you start driving a bit more sloppily as a result. So there are some drivers that sort of just have learned to just sort of kind of disregard a little bit the F3 box. You know, of course you can use it for reference, but they sort of learn to not stare at it and just worry about every single little reduction in the time that cars are closing in from behind.
Exactly right. You put the nail on the hammer on the nail there. It really does. You get in your own head if you start obsessing over every little tenth that somebody catches up to and things like that, and you put yourself into a world of pressure. But we've got under 12 minutes remaining, so we're just past the halfway point of this race. So this is where now, if you're Sebastian Job, if you're Kevin Ellis Jr., you're looking towards that final 3 laps of the race, and you're starting to prepare yourself and just set up your car ready for that final part of the race. And yes, it is easier said than done, that is for sure, as one of the comments in the Twitch chat is saying about not looking in your rear view mirror all the time. But definitely these guys who are up here at the front, the ones that are in these teams that are full-time pros, they're so used to it now that they're not bothered by people behind.
Do you think this current situation with the top 4 at the moment, or rather top 5, is just sort of more sort of making sure that they can get into those last couple of laps where they can fight right now, because they haven't been bunched up too much here just yet. There is battling going on a little bit further back though. That's the number 24 of Dane Baird going pretty wide through Stowe Corner in the battle with John Derrick and Adam Brown. Baird still a nose to the inside, but no sting in that sort of move through towards Vale. But returning to my point, Paul, at least for the front couple, they're just sort of calm and relaxed at the moment. I think it's sort of, once again, the kind of calm before the storm that we saw in race 1 as well.
Yeah, you reach a stage of the race where it's a case of, all right, well, I need to just spend a bit of time not pushing the tyres too hard, just get the tyre temperature under control, just settle in, get the car prepared for that push towards the end of the race, because you want to give it absolutely everything. You don't want to leave anything on the line when it comes to those final 3 laps, but at the same time, you want to get yourself some good points. And when you look at Perryman Ellis Jr., Job, Carroll, they're all getting themselves some very good points in these opening 2 races. It's early stages in this championship. There's going to be some challenging tracks that we go to later on in the season, and one that comes to mind is Knock Hill. That is going to be a completely new challenge for a lot of these drivers, and it's one that I'm rubbing my hands with delight, because it is a fun track that you can overtake at. People don't believe that you can overtake at that track. You can. You've just got to set it up. It's a real thinking driver's track.
It really is, and we've had a lot of fun races that we've broadcasted on there already during things like the Touring Car Challenge here on iRacing, and well, we'll see how these Porsches deal with the track all the way up in Scotland, basically in the middle of nowhere in Scotland as well. It's on the top of a mountain, hill, whatever you want to call it. So it's quite isolated.
Don't let Peter Mackay hear you describing it like that. It's just north of Edinburgh. In Fife, and it's a beautiful part of the world, is Knock Hill.
I didn't say it wasn't beautiful, let's just say that. But you see William Chadwick there, number 88 for Team Fordzilla. having a bit of a better race too compared to race number 1, and well, he's got cars ahead of him that potentially might be prime overtaking situation for him, but he is struggling a little bit with his connection, it seems. He told us before the race as well he was struggling with his racing hardware, his racing wheel and pedals, so it's like so things seem to not be going too well in the technical department for Will, but at least he's still in the race and hasn't dropped.
Yeah, and I said to him that the big book of racing driver excuses has just got a couple more entries into it. So yes, so definitely he's having not the best of times out there. And here we are, battling further down, 18th as well, Michael Waddell. And he is going under some serious pressure from John Derrick. Derrick, who having to do a bit of a recovery drive here, trying to work his way around the outside at Brooklands. That's easier said than done, but he's got the inside for Luffield. They've both kept each other with some space, but the run out the corner, this is really good. And the problem is the driver's behind, Dane Baird. He's got nowhere to go in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, he looks slightly to the inside, but I think 3 wide through Copse Corner is not the done thing. But you can see he's trying to get the run, is Dane Baird, but gets all sorts of out of shape. Will they go 3 wide from Baggett's and Beckett's? I think the wise thing is to back out at least one of them. That's exactly what Dane Baird has done. He's going to try and size up for another run through this fantastic sequence of corners and try and get run onto the hangar straight to try and get, well, at least on Derrick, if not Michael Weddle as well. But through Chapel onto the hangar straight then. Weddle is going to be under threat here from behind. Derrick, is he going to angle towards the inside? Yes, he is. Has a slight overlap now. The space will be given as Weddle tries to open up the corner. But it's sometimes a bit sketchy trying to hold it down on the inside there. Just has Dane Baird from race 1, but still absolutely level, coming down in towards Vale now. Big man of contact. Weddle holding on to the car somehow. Derrick will continue to try and fight it through this final couple of corners as Baird, Brown are now going wheel to wheel further behind as well. It's crazy, crazy stuff here down the order. This is towards the back of the field, by the way, but they're racing like it's for the race win.
Yeah, this is 18th. This is a battle for 18th right now, so I don't even think that they're scoring any points down here, but still, the battling is just as intense down here as it is up at the front of your field as well. It's just that Dane, there you see, the on board with him. I don't think his microphone's going to be much use pointing up there, but certainly he is fighting hard. And he's just trying his best to get past, but there just wasn't the room. Thankfully, he took a sensible pill going in towards Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, he did, and well, you can see just a slight bit of frustration there just a couple of moments ago. He knows that he's in a little bit of a tricky spot here, down in P20, which is, well, definitely not what he would be looking at as a good finish coming into this one. But still, plenty of, I guess if anything, plenty of fun to be had with regards to the side-by-side action. But the thing is, the points are only down to 15th place here in this series, so it's really fighting over quote-unquote nothing. But at least in terms of championship. But yeah, it is one for pride.
Absolutely. So those guys are having an intense battle. Your leaders, however, we're into that final 5-minute spell now. Business is picking up once again. Sebastian Job is looking very excited now behind Kevin Ellis Jr. And Ellis Jr. has caught up to his teammate Pete Berryman here, Connery. So this is going to be it now. Are they going to fight as intense as they did in race number 1, or are they thinking long game, get ourselves some good points?
I don't know in this situation. I just don't know. You want to be making a mark early on in the season, such as this one, but on the other side of the coin, you want that consistent finish to give you a good baseline to develop a championship run. It's always a very, very tricky situation. I think Sebastian Job is in the mood to get some overtakes done at the moment, especially with how close he drove up to the back of Kevin Ellis Jr. through that first sector. So I think if anyone's going to be trying to push themselves forward, it will be Sebastian Job in this situation. Of course, race number 1 winner, now P3, started P6 due to the reverse grids. A lot of work to do in these final few minutes.
Certainly is. Pete Berryman, he's had it relatively easy at the front most of this race. Been able to concentrate on his own driving, but as I say, now that Ellis Jr. has caught up to the back of him and dragged Sebastian Job, Graham Carroll along with him. They have actually dropped Josh Thompson a little bit from this battle. So Josh just falling back a little bit, just causing him to lose out on that slipstream. And it's a very wide line there, Josh, as well, through Copse Corner. But this front four, if they start fighting like they did in race 1, then Thompson will be with them in no time.
Yeah, I think so too. Looking to try and get the run off of Chapel. That's a very good run, in fact, for Sebastian Job. He might be able to make this move happen into Stowe this time, unless he decides to back out of it. You see Ellis Jr. thinking that he's going to come under threat as Sebastian Job commits to the outside line through Stowe Corner. Pinches Ellis Jr. all the way onto the apex, and well, Ellis Jr. will give him a bit of his own medicine coming off the corner, squeezing him out onto the exit curb. But Sebastian Job will back out of that one. He's going to just have to try and calm down the situation a little bit, because that got a bit too aggressive. Even though room was technically given, it was basically the minimum amount of room.
What was it that Fernando Alonso said that time? You must always leave the space. And Sebastian, I think he was forced actually off the track there on the exit of Stowe. So yeah, the squeezing, I'm all right with squeezing. That's hard fighting, but we've got to be careful not to push people completely off the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely will agree with that one there. But yeah, that was, again, another sign of things happening at the very front. What's happened to Dane Baird then? Because he has number 16 ahead of him there. That's Adam Brown, a bit of contact. Oh, that's not great. They're both able to hold it together, though, as Baird's day goes from, well, it was going pretty poorly already, but it's going worse now. Yeah,
but from bad to worse, and certainly not going great. We should have about a lap and a half left in this race now, so things aren't quite as intense as they were in race 1, but I think we're setting the stall here, Connery, for how the rest of the season is going to go here between these outfits, between Apex Racing Team and the Oracle Red Bull Esports Racing. Of course, getting a new title sponsor for Red Bull, so they also chose to sponsor their esports outfit as well. So great to see a sponsor like that coming on board into esports. And the more and more that sim racing grows in popularity, the better it is for all of us, because it means more sponsors get involved. It means that more people can go professional with it, and the standards will just keep on increasing.
Here we go then. We're coming towards the end of the penultimate lap now, however. And, well, still this front four. It's 2 Apex Racing Team cars leading 2 Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports machines further back. But can this shuffle by the time this race is done and the checkered flag is out? Absolutely, certainly. But it requires the drivers playing ball. But across the line then to start the final lap of race number 2 in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain here at Silverstone. Berryman leads from Kevin Ellis Jr., from Job, from Carroll. But are there going to be any changes before this race is done? Well, through the first sector, they're not quite going to be close enough to have a battle of it. But it's the end of the lap here, Paul. It's the end of the lap that's had the vast majority of the action in the battles that we've seen. It might have to be that situation here as well. But remember, at the end of race 1, we didn't quite see it. Yeah,
you're absolutely right there, Connery. But Ellis Jr. right up behind of Pete Berryman in towards Brooklands. Job, he's there as well. He's not quite close enough to make any moves at this point, but really it's that run down the hanger straight into Stowe is where we're going to see that key point, and then the run out of Stowe in towards the club for those final moves.
There it is, so into Copse Corner for the final time. Kevin Ellis Jr., what does he do here? I doubt he wanted to fight too hard with his teammate for the race win in this situation. I think it might be more prudent for Apex Racing Team to just sort of, you know, keep them the way around they are now, unless there's an obvious gap back to Sebastian Job where they could potentially have a little bit of a fight. But through Maggots and Beckett's, Still no changes in and amongst this grouping. Berryman's going to have a slightly poor run coming off the corner. So here comes Ellis Jr. then. Does he decide to go for the move on his teammate in towards Stowe Corner for the race win? What are the team orders? Oh, he had a little bit of a think about it, didn't he, on the way into the braking zone. But Berryman does remain ahead for now. Sebastian Job third in line, still not quite close enough to be able to do anything through the final couple of corners here, unless there's an almighty lunge in towards the Vale chicane for the final time. And it will be Peter Berryman heading his way up towards the final corner of Club, and he will take the race win for race number 2 of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. Peter Berryman gets it in the bag. P2, it's a 1-2 finish for Apex Racing Team as Ellis Jr. finishes in that second place. It's a P3-4 for Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports for Sebastian Job and Graham Carroll. So another calm affair at the very end of the event, but still action throughout as we see the rest of the runners head their way through and across the line. That's event number 1 done, Paul.
Yeah, that was actually really intriguing to watch that and how it all panned out. And to be fair, I think the right idea was done there. Kevin knew to not try and push his luck with any move on P at the end there, because those 2 Red Bull cars were there just loitering, ready to take advantage of anything. So yeah, definitely a good way to end the race. And Apex Racing Team, well, they've got a 1-2 yesterday in the Porsche Carrera Esports Supercup. Well, they've got a 1-2 here today as well.
Yeah, there's the unofficial race results. Of course, stewards will look at certain incidents over the course of this race and make their judgments. But Peter Berryman, P1, and Kevin Ellis Jr. P2. Sebastian Job will finish in P3 with Graham Carroll P4. Then you have Josh Thompson. He was trying to hang on to that front train, but unfortunately fell off in the last couple of laps there, 2 seconds behind the race leader in P5. Jamie Moon in P6 with Blair Mann P7. William Chadwick getting himself up into P8, which is a decent performance for Will. We've got Matt Emery in P9 and Josh Willan in P10. And then you have a look down to the down to the top 20. We've got P11 going to Leon Penn with Craig Williams P12, Jack Cedric P13, Will Tregurtha P14, Lewis Goodway P15. Brandon Blakesley will finish in 16th with Daniel Thomas in 17th, John Derrick 18th. We've got Michael Whittle in 19th and Adam Brown in 20th. And then the final couple of cars, again, 1 retirement over the course of this race, same as race 1. That's Conan Wern in P24, but P21 goes to Daniel McDonald, Dane Bed P22, and Daniel McCauley P23, the last driver, at least still running in position. So those are the race results for race number 2 here of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, and well, Paul, we had our fair share of action, shall we say? And I'm reminded of what you said, sort of in the middle of that race, of potentially these 4 cars, the 2 Apex Racing Team cars, the 2 Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports cars. Those are going to be the potentially the main championship contenders over the course of this race, the main protagonists, shall we say. At least that's extrapolating off of this first event.
I mean, those were the 4 that were really fighting for it last season as well. Obviously, Berryman had issues midway through the championship, which meant that he wasn't able to fight for the championship in the end. But yeah, it's going to be these 4 really that push on and try and fight for this championship win here, and it's a good indicator as to how things are going here on the start of the championship. Of course, Silverstone is one that's known for its fast flowing action. You can get side-by-side action as well, but it's a nice wide track as well, so good to see the close but intense racing there.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited for proceedings there, but we do have to get this broadcast moving along. We will be having the driver interviews come in just a handful of moments' time. That will be hosted by the one, the only Paul Smith, of course. And of course, we've got Peter Berryman already standing by. And well, Paul, you're standing by with the race 2 winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Pete, I mean, you couldn't have asked a better finish to the race, but what a launch that you got at the start of this second race to get off the grid and be fighting for the lead straight away. That was crucial for you, I feel.
Yeah, that pretty much, I wouldn't say it sealed the victory, but yeah, that definitely was 90% of it. And the launch was so good, you know, made sure I was first coming down the first long straight really on the Wellington straight. From there really it was just trying to manipulate it for Kev to work his way through, and then working together with a slipstream, you know, holding a bit to help Kev stay ahead of the cars that were trying to attack him. And from there it was pretty much just setting in formation.
I mean, we saw it all in race one, how it got a little bit more intense in that first race than the second race. But how important is it for you to have your teammates there to work together with and to help try and block those pesky Red Bull cars behind you?
Yeah, it's massive in this championship, especially with the extra spice of open qualifying that, you know, we're not really used to on this sim. So, you know, working together with teammates, you know, slipstreaming each other for queue times and stuff is super, super important. And like you've seen here, you know, if you've got two cars going up against one car, it's, you know, it's a lot more of an advantage, you know, that the other car can't really get a break. So yeah, definitely having teammates is really, really crucial in this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good, strong start to your season. Okay, maybe not the finish that you would have wanted in the first race, but to get a race win in race two is a really good start to your championship.
Yeah, super pleased with that. I mean, obviously, like you say, a little bit disappointed with race one. I think I got bullied a bit, punched around a little bit, but yeah, nice to bounce back in race two. So yeah, super, super pleased.
All right, well, Peter, congratulations on the race two victory there, and a good start to your championship. But now we're going to head on over to our second place driver from this feature race as well. And it's going to be Kevin Ellis Jr. once he here. Hello there, Kevin. Two P2s here today in the race, but crucially for yourselves at Apex Racing Team, that's two 1-2s in 2 days.
Yeah, it's not been a bad weekend, has it? Yeah, that was a ton of fun today. You know, I've been looking forward to this championship a lot. Last year was absolutely mega. Some of the racing I had with Seb was just on another level, and I don't think today disappointed either. It was a little bit gutting to lose the win there in race one. You know, we were so close, got the move done, and just, yeah, I was a little bit down on pace in Maggots Beckett's, and it just left Seb a little bit close. I thought I'll hold the middle and hopefully it doesn't make the inside work, but he done really well to get it stopped up the inside and park the centre there and hang on to the win. And then, yeah, race two, I had a little bit of a battle there. I think I pushed him into a slowdown. It just sort of hooked my car left, and I couldn't really do much. But you know, we chatted about it after the race, and everything seems good. So, no, really good day and a great weekend for the team.
Well, we saw last season, didn't we, between yourself and Sebastian, how close but fair the racing is. And I think that's the crucial thing to point out here. The racing is hard, there's no doubt about that, but it is fair between yourself and everybody else on this grid.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the hardest racing I've ever experienced on the sim. You know, it's the same car as PESC, but you know, I actually need to give a bit of a shout out to the admins and Ronald Grossman for the setup. Like, they made a couple tweaks to it, you know, over the weekend, thanks to recommendations from us, and it actually made it really raceable. It was really fun to, get just enough draft to make moves possible, but the car was nice and stable to where the tyres weren't that bad. You know, they were basically overheated by lap 2, and we were kind of hanging on from there, but you know, the wing angle kind of made it possible to race still, and yeah, I mean, you saw a product of that today. It was I think the admin's done a really good job with the setup, and it really allowed us to get our elbows out today and have a bit of fun.
Absolutely, and of course, you know, you're fighting for a championship just like your teammate as well, so there's going to be a time where you're fighting each other. It looked like at the end of that second race there, you were maybe going to think of a move down to Stowe, but I think, you know, cooler heads prevailed there. But how intense is this championship going to be for you? The fact that you're juggling this with the Porsche Carrera Esports Supercup and with other commitments as well, I mean, how much does it help you that it is a fixed setup series, that you're not having to work on a setup for so many hours?
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, we just sort of got done with PESC last night. Obviously, I wanted to celebrate the win last night, but kind of similar to last year, had no time to celebrate. I had to come straight into this today. So, yeah, there's kind of no downtime at the minute. It's definitely full on, but you know, the setup is pretty easy to just hop in and go. You know, I think after about 5 laps, we've sort of found our pace, and from then on, it was just sort of trying to negotiate the kind of qualifying strategy and what we would do with that, and then also, you know, kind of figure out how it races, which we found out again pretty quickly. You know, thankfully, Pete and I work really, really well together. Obviously, sitting just 4 feet next to me, and you know, we've been working together for many years, so everything's just so efficient, so quick. We're always on the same page with things, so it just makes things so much easier for us.
Well, Kevin, go and celebrate a really good weekend for you, and also a nice job on the lap guide as well for us as well. So thank you for that. But Kevin, congratulations on your positions here today.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Have a good weekend.
So there we go, Connery. That's your two first and second place from that second race there, and it was a little bit of a calmer affair, wasn't it?
Just a little bit in that second race. Of course, we had a little bit of quite an exciting start with Pierre Berryman's monster of a launch, and then the instance a little bit further back. But yeah, that's the way you want to do it sometimes. You want to do it under like a calm situation instead of being pressured all the way until the checkered flag. And that's exactly what Pierre Berryman and Kevin Nurse Jr. have done in race number 2 at least. Of course, race number 1, you know, the standout performer there was Sebastian Job, of course, but you know, he does have challenges in this series, and very, very strong challenges as well. So it's going to be a case of, you know, just this grouping of 4. I feel at least extrapolating what happened in this race over into the next couple of rounds. But of course, next round might be a little bit different though, Paul, because it is Brands Hatch Indy. So there's not a lot you can do wrong at that circuit. You know, it's such a fast and furious lap, and you know, like as soon as you practice it for about 2 hours, it's you know, it's sort of embedded in your brain with how to go fast there. So it's I get the feeling that Brands Hatch Indy might be one of the closer circuits, at least in terms of the difference between drivers that we'll have this season.
Well, it's such a short lap. It's, you know, it's an incredible short lap around Brands Hatch Indy. There's not many places to overtake around there, so if you can defend into Druids, then you've pretty much set yourself up. You can make a move to the inside of Paddock Bend that you see right there on screen, but definitely it is a tricky track to get absolutely spot on, and you can make mistakes around there. It is so easily done, and this Indy layout, it's fast and frenetic. You're gonna just see lap after lap after lap of drivers being beside each other. It is a track that you can race at.
I get the feeling the large trains will be established at Brands Hatch Indy, so we're certainly looking forward to it. But at least from here at RaceSpotTV, and of course streaming on the Porsche social media as well, that will be where we have to end it. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for the first round of the season of the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports for Great Britain. We'll be back, of course, for round number 2 on the February 27th, same Sunday afternoon, for rounds 3 and 4 of the championship. But we had a pretty good first event here at Silverstone. We'll see you then.